let's discuss the stimulus package, the Democrat proposal, America reopening, and the economy. I'm here with Holly Sias.
Hi, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. Let's begin. Yesterday, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi unveiled the Democrat stimulus plan. Here are the highlights. It's a $3 trillion proposal by the Democrats. The $3 trillion bill includes a second stimulus check of $1,200. I know we were all hoping for a 2000 unemployment benefits, mortgage relief, nearly $1 trillion of aid for state and local governments, a $25 billion bailout for the post office, and $3.6 billion bolster to election security. These are just the highlights. The House of Representatives, they're expected to approve the stimulus bill on Friday. However, it's most likely going to face opposition in the Senate. As helpful as this stimulus package would be, and the previous stimulus packages have been, what's really going to get this country back on its feet is the real economy. Holly, can you give us an update on the U.S. economy?
Yes, definitely. I agree that what's going to really drive this recovery is the economy and getting jobs back on track. The good news is that we are seeing Americans on the move, and in some cases, going back to work. For every governor has begun this process of reopening their state's economies, and in many cases, this means dividing the state into different regions and opening it up at different times and phases. A few weeks ago, it was reported that 44% of Americans were staying at home. Just last week, that number dropped to 36%. The top 5 states with increased mobility include Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Georgia, and Minnesota. In the early reopening phases, we're seeing stores operate with very limited capacity, the enforcement of wearing masks and facial coverings, physical social distancing, restaurants offering curbside pickup and delivery, and then also offering dine-in services.
Thanks for that update, Holly. And another question that we're all wondering is what is going on with the schools? The reason why we're asking this is because if the children are at home, there's childcare issues. If the parents cannot find childcare help with that, then they're stuck at home. They can't go back to their jobs, or in most job situations, they can't go back to their jobs and start contributing back to the real economy. So what's the situation with the schools, the education on that front?
Right, it really is a domino effect. And what we saw that the end of this academic school year ended with online classes. And I want to share a few updates of what we can kind of see beginning of the next school year in the fall. Yesterday, Dr. Anthony Fauci said there was no chance of having a vaccine ready in time for the new school year in the fall. And he warns that we really run the risk of having a surge of cases if we don't follow safety protocols and continue social distancing. The fear is having a long and steady decline that will exponentially grow suddenly during the summer. We see that California State University may actually be setting an example for schools to follow. They announced today that they are canceling in-person classes for the fall. This is the nation's largest 4-year university. All of their classes will be strictly online. A key coronavirus model just recently raised the projected death toll, predicting there could be 147,000 fatalities in the United States by August 4th. This is double what it was estimated just 2 weeks ago. So due to that higher projected rate and the lack of testing, there's a lot of doubt that the K through 12 schools will be able to reopen in time for the start of that academic school year. That's usually projected to be around August or September.
Holly, that's bad news all around. We need some good news.
We really do.
And okay, I mean, we're hearing all about this reinfection. Mm-hmm. I feel like if COVID-19 is still lingering out there, it's going to be really difficult for the economy to make a full recovery. Can you give us an update about the potential vaccine?
Right. Now I come with a little bit of good news. The first United States vaccine candidate has been passed by the FDA to go to phase 2. So the vaccine is called mRNA-1273, and it could be used if it is found to be safe and effective. Phase 1 involved testing small amount of volunteers that began on March 16th in Seattle. Now, Phase 2 will involve testing several hundred volunteers and really going to focus in on how the vaccine affects their immune systems and whether or not they will be immune to the virus. Phase 3 involves giving the vaccine to a much larger group of people. That's people ranging in the tens and thousands. So we'll see kind of when that will happen. That will be the final phase, so fingers crossed. Now, while economies are beginning to reopening, testing is ultimately the determining factor of when they will be able to go back to the workplace. The head of the government's testing response team testified yesterday that the administration planned to send states enough swabs for 12.9 million tests over the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, 12.9 million tests. That's great to see the testings increasing. I think that's crucial. And as you guys know, looking at Europe and Asia, that's kind of like looking into the future because the pandemic started there a few weeks ahead of us. So it's good to see what's going on there. Holly, if you can just give us more details about their economies, their reopening, reinfection. How is everything going over in Europe and Asia?
Definitely. Well, it's so important to take a look at them because, like you said, they are kind of our future imprints. So we are starting to see some new cases rise, and as they rise, more restrictions are being put into place where once they were eased. So let's take a look at South Korea and China. So their restrictions are now tightened. In Seoul, South Korea, the mayor has now ordered that night spots be enclosed indefinitely after one man spread 100 new cases to individuals that visited these same bars and clubs. This comes just 3 days after South Korea relaxed some of its restrictions. Looking at Wuhan, China, where it all began, there are 6 new cases that have been reported. That city had been under lockdown for 76 days before restrictions began to be eased last month. China has ordered that all 11 million residents be tested within the next 10 days. Let's look at Europe for a little bit of positive news. The European Commission will recommend travel between countries with similar coronavirus risk profiles. This comes as an attempt to revive the tourism sector, which is one of the largest sectors of the economy that normally accounts for 10% of the EU economic output. Now, today in England, a little bit of better news. People are seeing their lockdowns being eased. They can drive to parks, have a little bit more freedom, even meet up with a friend or two while maintaining that social distance.
Thank you, Holly, for those updates. I'm glad to hear a little bit of sprinkle of good news.
Yes, much needed.
But unfortunately, as you can see, that the economy recovering, the whole economy in general, it's a bumpy road. The reopening of America will also be a bumpy road for the economy. And due to all this, the politicians are currently working on the 5th stimulus package. The first stimulus package was a tiny $8.3 billion stimulus package in late February to stop COVID-19. The second stimulus package was $100 billion, which included free testing kits, Medicaid programs, and sick leave benefits. The third stimulus package, that was a big one. That was the one for $2.2 trillion with the stimulus checks. The fourth stimulus package was the additional $310 billion of funding for small businesses. This was for the additional SBA PPP loan program. And this one, with the Democratic plan, the proposal, this one will be the 5th stimulus package in discussion, believe it or not. However, keep in mind that COVID-19, it's most likely going to stick with us for the rest of the year. It might even spill into 2021. If that's the case, it's going to negatively impact our economy. We might even be looking at a 6th stimulus package. I personally, I wouldn't rule that out as far-fetched the way things are going.
Thank you so much for joining us. Please subscribe, leave your comment. We look forward to reading them. We'll see you next week with another U.S. economic update. Stay safe out there.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.